Hey, welcome to Let's Make Miracles.
I'm Alex, and
I'm Jen.
we're working through the Course in Miracles over the course of an entire year.
Yeah.
Welcome to Let's Make Miracles, episode 4.
Hey guys, welcome back. Alright. So, lesson 4, I have, these thoughts do not mean anything.
Hey, I just want to stop you for a second.
Yeah.
I don't know if people might jump in the middle of the series, so I figured every couple episodes we should mention that these are meant to be listened to sequentially.
Yes.
And not out of order. So start at 1 and go forward.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Because if you jump from, lesson 7 to, lesson 1, you're not going to get the full impact. Just like how we were saying in the previous episodes, how we're going to be starting to record one lesson one day so that we can get the whole experience out. If we'll share any epiphanies that we get, even though it does add up together, and it does layer, it's very beneficial to go from one to, each additional one and not skip any. I agree. So, back to lesson 4. These thoughts do not mean anything. If you want to read, Alex.
Oh, yeah. I forgot I had to do this. Lesson 4. These thoughts do not mean anything. They're like the things I see in this room, or on this street, or from this window, or in this place. Unlike the preceding ones, these exercises do not begin with the idea for the day. In these practice periods, begin with noting the thoughts that are crossing your mind for about a minute. Then apply the idea to them. If you're already aware of unhappy thoughts, use them as the subjects for the idea. Do not, however, select only the thoughts you think are quote-unquote bad. You will find, if you train yourself to look at your thoughts, that they represent such a mixture that, in a sense, none of them can be called quote good or quote bad. This is why they do not mean anything. In selecting the subjects for the application of today's idea, the usual specificity is required. Do not be afraid to use quote good thoughts as well as quote bad. None of them represents your real thoughts, which are being covered up by them. The quote good ones are but shadows of what lies beyond, and shadows make sight difficult. The quote bad ones are blocks to sight and make seeing impossible. You do not want either. This is a major exercise, and will be repeated from time to time in somewhat different form. The aim here is to train you in the first steps towards the goal of separating the meaningless from the meaningful. It is a first attempt in the long-range purpose of learning to see the meaninglessness as outside you and the meaningful within. It is also the beginning of training your mind to recognize what is the same and what is different. In using your thoughts for application of the idea for today, identify each thought by the central figure or event it contains. For example, this thought about blank does not mean anything. It is like the things I see in this room. You can also use the idea for a particular thought that you recognize as harmful. This practice is useful, but is not a substitute for the more random procedures to be followed for the exercises. Do not, however, examine your mind for more than a minute or so. You are too inexperienced as yet to avoid a tendency to become pointlessly preoccupied. Further, since these exercises are the first of their kind, you may find the suspension of judgment in connection with these thoughts particularly difficult. Do not repeat these exercises more than 3 or 4 times during the day. We will return to them later.
This one's a big one. This one's probably the most difficult of the past lessons so far. Only because today everybody's mind is constantly going. In our Qigong school, this is one of the main requirements in order to do Qigong efficiently, is to, release thought. And when thoughts pop up, you think them and dismiss them. So it's a little on that same concept that when you have a thought, just simply say, these thoughts don't mean anything. And it's kind of like a better way of releasing them. I remember that reading this one, maybe on day one, because I followed a couple of Facebook pages on the Course in Miracles, and I saw a picture, and I was having a depressive episode, and this is what pulled me out. Just these thoughts don't mean anything. And, like I said probably in the previous episode, it jarred my brain enough to knock me out of that, mindset. And I was like, oh, okay. It doesn't mean anything. I'm not this thought. I'm not this feeling. And it just, like I said, jarred me enough to stop it. And I was able to correct what was going on. Do you have anything you want to say to this, Alex?
I know it's been a long time since I first encountered this exercise. Mm-hmm. But I feel like I didn't do it the first time.
No?
Pretty sure I didn't do it the first time.
Why do you say that?
Because I didn't really get this until about 2 or 3 years ago.
From today? Like this current?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I didn't really get it from this book. I got it from separate.
That's right. Yeah, so we've been on a journey about emotions and thoughts for a little while before this Course in Miracles lessons.
Yeah, and this lesson took a long time to sink in.
And he went over it in the book. He said that it's going to pop up again. And I think it's because of its complexity. It's more important. It's like an important one. It's one to repeat over and over because it's so big and it's so complex.
Yeah.
You can't simply just be like, oh, got it, let's move on. It's you've got to apply it, pretty often.
Yeah, he repeats it fairly frequently in the book. And I know when I tried going through this book on my own, I didn't get this lesson. And the next lesson. And the next lesson that involved this particular idea that thoughts do not mean anything. Yeah, it took a lot of introspection, I guess.
Yeah. So would you agree with me if I said that thoughts aren't us? Thoughts aren't ourselves. Thoughts aren't us. We're not our thoughts.
Correct.
Okay. Would you like to go into detail about like what a thought is, or how we could have other people's thoughts, or what that means?
No, I don't think so.
Great, thanks.
But, I mean, thoughts are just something that happen in the brain. The mind itself does not do anything. It just sits there. If the thoughts come up from the brain and the mind can see them, and then depending on what you decide to do with your attention, the thoughts just go away again, or you can fixate on them and they will stay around and keep growing bigger and bigger and bigger.
So thoughts are when the mind is playing, essentially.
First, I don't define the mind and the brain as the same thing.
Okay.
So I would say thoughts are what the brain does.
Okay, so is it like the thoughts are the screensaver of if the brain is a computer?
It's more like your thoughts are just random things that the brain has thrown together
Okay.
from different things it's seen or heard or read or whatever.
So it's like a daydream,
Yeah.
essentially. And if you get fixated on that daydream, emotions happen.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. That's helpful.
I guess.
I mean, I'm sure it's helpful to the viewers.
Who's watching? The cat.
The listeners.
I guess
the cat.
Cat's
No,
kind of
she's
watching.
facing the other way too. Nobody's watching. To the listeners. But again, like if we go back, we're not supposed to understand this.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess our job is done.
All right. Sounds good. See you in the next episode. Thanks for listening. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us on our Facebook group, Let's Meet Miracles, or on our Instagram pages at Zinfully Ever After and Heart Lotus Guru.
If you could give us a review in iTunes or Stitcher or wherever you listen to podcasts, that would really help us be more visible to more people.
Thanks.